smart, man. That's so big. Alright. Alright. Are we ready? We're done? Let's get it out of our system. Can we get it out? Any more blues to pop? Let's pop. Get him! Anything that's left, get him! Yeah, out, done. Alright, I love you so much. Take a seat for me. 3 more. Get him! Get him! Sit. Get a stare in the baby tonight. There we go. Come on. Come on. Can I just say I love you guys? Hey, Brandon. You got one left? Thank you. I just want you to know I love you because you're funny. You're dumb, but you're funny. Okay? I love you. Okay? Just because you're dumb doesn't mean I love you any less. I'm just kidding. You're not dumb. You're awesome. Okay? I'm the dumb one. I don't want to be the one of us. Alright. So glad you guys are here tonight, man. And I'm just so excited about what God's doing. Man, I look at you guys tonight, and I really do believe that you're sitting in your chair because the God who created the sun said, hey, Jasmine, I want you to be there. And you may have had many different ways that you found yourself in your chair. But I believe that none of us are here by accident. That God has gathered us together, guys. And so if God brought us here, and it's not an accident, then I believe there's something God wants to say. Can you agree with me? God has something He wants to say tonight. So I'm going to say what I think God wants to say to you tonight. And if you could do me a big favor, by not messing around, by not listening to music, and let's open our ears and our heart to say, God, say something to my heart. And I believe in a big way that God speaks. He's not up in the clouds somewhere. He's not hiding. He speaks to us. Man, if you've been hanging out with us, we've been talking about a big idea, and the big idea is this, that God has a big dream. You have dreams, I have dreams, your parents have dreams, but God's dream for your life is way bigger. And the first dream God has for you, when God looks at you, God's first dream for you is that there would be a resurrection in your heart. That your stone heart, that your heart that's bitter and angry and unhappy, and there's no joy and no peace and no satisfaction. How does that happen to me every week? This mic is falling apart. You know what? Falls out one more time. I'm not going to use it. There we go. Here's the big idea, though. God has a big dream for your life. And it's bigger than what you want or what I want or what anybody else wants. And some of you on the inside have been dead, and you've been dead for a long time. Oh, you're walking and talking, but in the inside, you're numb. You stink. You've got stuff that's begun to rot on the inside of your heart. And God wants there to be a resurrection. He wants to bring you to life. Then last week we said that you had an identity. And before you met Jesus, your identity said broken and forgotten, with no name and no family. And God chose you. And He said, you're going to be my house. You're going to be my people. You're going to have my name. That's your identity. And it's rooted like a tree deep in the mercy of God. That God says, my mercy, my grace is the reason you're a part of my family. Not because of anything you ever did. And many of you, when you mess up, you go, that must mean I'm not part of God's family anymore. And God goes, no, you're a part of my family because of my mercy. Because of my grace. I chose you. I accepted you. You can't mess it up. You're part of God's family. That's your new identity. Tonight I want to ask you a question. How many of you have some battle scars? How many of you have some battle scars? Man, you've done something and you fell, or you were playing some sports, or you were like me and you jumped out of a tree, cut your leg on a rock, and you got some bad battle scars. How many of you are proud of those battle scars? How many of you, when you have a battle One time I was mowing grass, and I wasn't real smart, kind of dumb. So I like to mow the grass barefoot. How many of you guys know that's a bad idea? How many of you know when you mow grass barefoot, bad things can happen? Like you could get your toe cut off. Man, you slip and fall down, you can cut off your arm. Man, that thing is just cutting like that, man. It's crazy. But I was mowing grass barefoot because I thought I was cool and smart and comfortable. And I was out there mowing grass, and I was mowing grass. I had about 3 acres. My parents had a lot of land, so every week I had to mow about 3 acres during the summertime. And I was mowing the grass. By the way, this wasn't in high school. You'd think maybe I was in high school. No, I was actually in college. All right, pretty dumb. I was out there mowing grass barefoot, and I came around the corner of my house, and I stepped on a broken beer bottle that somebody had thrown out their window into my yard, and the top part was cut off, and it was sitting in the grass, sticking up like that, just half the beer bottle. And I stepped on it like this, crunch! And that beer bottle shot right into my foot, man, and I leaped off the grass, man. My foot was bleeding like somebody had, opened up a gusher of a big, well, and blood was just pouring out of my foot like crazy, and the grass had blood all over it. And I ran to the house and I looked, and there was like this hole in my foot, and it was dark, and I was trying to clean it out, and it hurt, man, and I couldn't see anything in there, and I poured some peroxide on it, because I'm an idiot, I didn't go to the doctor, because I'm just an idiot, okay? And I thought, I'll be fine, I'm walking around, no problem, and every once in a while, it hurt, man. I looked in the hole, and the hole wasn't healing. And a week went by, man, the hole wasn't healing. Just a big hole in my foot. I thought, okay, so I had to clean it every day. I'd stick it in hot water and soak it, and I'd look at it again. And, I had my mom look at it. She's like, you need to go to the doctor. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to the doctor. She'd be like, you're an idiot. Go to the doctor. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to the doctor. And 1 week went by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, my foot, I'll be fine, I'll be playing, and then I'd step on it, man, it's like something was hurting. And I had this idea in the back of my head that there was something stuck in my foot. But then I looked at the hole, man, it still wasn't healing. But I couldn't see anything in there. And then one day I was walking around, and my foot was just feeling weird, and I pulled it up, and I soaked it in water, and I looked at it, and at the very end of that hole in my foot, I thought I saw something. Now, what's that? And I got a needle, and I stuck that needle into my hole in that, and that doesn't feel good, by the way, because there's all this flesh now, and kind of growing back in. I stuck that needle in there, and the needle hit it, metal. And I'm like, there's something in my foot. So for the next hour, I took a pair of tweezers in that needle, and I scratched away at that hole in my foot. Scratched away at it, and I scratched away at it. Then I get the tweezers, and I could see it now, and I took the tweezer out, and I pull it. But the problem was, there was only the top part, but the bottom part was bigger. So I grab it and pull it, and it would pull the foot up, because the bottom part was stuck in the skin. And I pull it, and I dropped the tweezers, and I had my mom do it, and she'd go to the doctor. And I'd be like, no, you're dumb. Go to the doctor. But since I was a grown man, she couldn't force me. And I did that for about 2 hours, man, just scraping at it, scraping at it, scraping at it, scraping at it. And finally, man, I know, man, every scrape was like, Finally, I grabbed those tweezers, I grabbed that piece of glass with those tweezers, and I pulled on it, and it came out. Now, how many of you guys know that I have not told that story very often? Any ideas why I don't tell that story very often? It makes me look like an idiot. That's exactly right. There's a reason I don't go around telling people, there was this time when I was mowing the grass in my bare feet, they stopped me going, you are an idiot. And then I got this piece of glass in my foot, and I didn't go to the doctor. You're an idiot twice. And then hours and hours, they said, shut up, you're the dumbest person I've ever met. There's a reason why I don't tell that story. You're not the first people I told the story to. Why? Because it's embarrassing. I'm ashamed. And the sad thing is I can't defend what I did. And you're like, why did you go to the doctor? Dumb person. Why were you mowing barefoot? I don't have any good answers for any of it. Because I'm an idiot. Okay? maybe something you've done, or maybe it's emotional. And how many of you would say there's a scar? There's something that's happened to you, whether it's physical or it's emotional, and it's a scar you're embarrassed of. It's not a scar you celebrate. It's not a scar you tell people. Because you don't want to tell people that you screwed it up that bad. You don't want to tell people that you made that kind of stupid mistake. You don't want to tell people that you were that dumb. Or that you let somebody hurt you that bad. You're ashamed. How many of you guys, you would say, I got scars like that. Man, I got scars that I'm ashamed of. Man, I've got things that really hurt, man, that I hope nobody knows about me. And you know why you don't want them to know that about you? Because you and I are afraid. You and I are afraid that if they knew that about us, they would reject us. You and I are afraid that if others saw the dumb mistakes we made, or they saw the embarrassing things that happened to us, the things that we're ashamed of, we're afraid if they knew those things, we'd be rejected. They wouldn't be our friend anymore. Guys, I want to tell you a story of a lady tonight in the Bible. And she had some wounds. And Jesus meets her. And I want to show you how Jesus handled her wounds. And what Jesus did. Because here's the big thought tonight, guys. All of us have wounds. Every one of us. And we're all going to have wounds. Meaning that there are things that have happened to us that we have scars from. And there are things that are going to happen in our lives that are going to cause more scars. It's just part of life. It's what happens. Because we're not perfect. We make bad choices. People do evil things against us. And the big idea, guys, is we all have wounds. The question is, what do we do with them? Do we hide them? Do we put them in the dark? Do we cover them up? Do we try to wear long sleeves over them so that nobody ever sees them? Or does God have a bigger dream for your life when it comes to your wounds? Does God have a purpose for your wounds? So I want you to check out this story. It's in John chapter 4. Jesus was traveling. He was going from city to city. Man, he was telling people about how much God loved them. He was he put his hands on them. He was healing their sickness. He was healing, if they couldn't walk, he was making them walk. If they were blind, he was making them where they could see again. He was doing awesome stuff everywhere he went, traveling around the country. And he was traveling from a city called Judea to a city called Galilee, and he went through a part of the country called Samaria. Now Samaria, just so you know, Samaria, a group of people lived in this part of the country that Jews absolutely hated. Absolutely hated. It's somebody that if you were part of the family that Jesus came from, and you met someone from Samaria, you wouldn't touch them. Because you felt that even touching them made you dirty. You ever been treated that way before? You ever been treated by somebody as if you had cancer or AIDS and they didn't even want to let you breathe on them because they thought you were so dirty? Maybe you've experienced racism like that. Did people treat you because of the color of your skin? Someone's treated you in a negative way? And the people that lived in Samaria, they were treated that way by the Jewish people. They were dirty. You weren't allowed to eat with them. You weren't allowed to talk to them. You weren't allowed to touch them. And Jesus is traveling through this part of the country, and he stops where there's a well of water. He stops where there's a well of water because he's thirsty. And his disciples, his homies, his buddies, what do? They leave and they go look for food. Alright? And a woman comes to the well to draw water. And she comes to the well. Now back in that day, if a woman from Samaria came and met a Jewish man, because Jesus was a Jewish man, the man would have not talked to her, he wouldn't have looked at her, he would have ignored her, because not only was she from the country of Samaria, meaning she was dirty, but she was also a woman. And in that day, being a woman There was a lot of sexism. They weren't treated fairly. Now check out what happens in John 4. Verse 7, a woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, whoa, wait a minute. Jesus is a man. He's a Jew. He's not supposed to talk to her. Pay attention to that. But Jesus says to her, give me a drink. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? She's saying, I'm a woman and I'm from Samaria. Why are you talking to me? Now let me ask you this. If you've been the victim of racism, if you've been treated unfairly your whole life because you're a woman, how many of you guys think this woman has some scars? How many of you think this woman has some wounds in her life? Yeah, when you're treated unfairly, when you're talked to like you're nothing and you're a nobody, yeah, you've got some wounds. And she had some wounds. Check out what it says next. Jesus answered her in verse 10, if you knew the gift of God, and check it out, who it is that is saying to you, you would have asked him, give me a drink. You would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Here's what he's saying. Woman, you don't know who you're talking to. See, you're expecting me, a man and a Jew, to treat you the way you've always been treated, which is badly. But woman, you don't know who I am. And if you knew who I was, you wouldn't go, hey, why are you talking to me? You would ask me for water. And he calls it living water. Now check out her response. This is awesome. The woman said to him, sir, you have nothing to draw water with. Now she's going, you're crazy. Because he said, hey, you ask me for water. Ask me for water. And she's looking at him and she's going, who are you? You give me water. How are you going to get water out of this hole in the ground? That's what a well was, by the way. A well was a hole in the ground. She's saying, how are you going to get water out of that hole? The well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gives us the well and drink from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock. Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. Whoever drinks of the water I will give him will never be thirsty. Do you think he's talking about real water? No. Not at all. Not at all. She's focused on the physical, and Jesus is saying, do you know who I am? Let me ask you guys a question now. Do you know who Jesus is? Do you know who he is? Man, because if you knew who he was, if you knew the power he had, you would ask him for the things that you need. You would ask him to satisfy your heart. If you knew who he was, you wouldn't mess around and ignore him. If you knew who he was, you wouldn't go day to day in school and just do your own thing and act like he doesn't exist. If you knew who he was, it would change everything. Question is, do you know who he is? And many of us say we know Jesus. We come to church on Wednesday night, but our life day to day acts like we don't really know who he is. It just shows that we don't really believe that he is who he says he is. Check out what the woman says to him. The woman said to him, sir, give me this living water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to drink water. She still doesn't get it. She still thinks it's about real water. And he's saying, I'm not talking about real water, woman. I'm talking about satisfying your heart, where all the wounds in the hurt of your heart would be healed. I'm not talking about drinking water. But she still thinks it's about water. She still doesn't know who she's talking to. Check out what happens next. Jesus knows what's going on. So Jesus said to her, go call your husband and come here. Go call your husband. Because Jesus knows something nobody else knows. The woman answered him, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you are saying, I have no husband, for you have 5 husbands. What just happened? See, Jesus knows her heart. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows all the hurt. He knows all the wounds. He knows all the stuff that's been hidden, all the stuff that she's tried to ignore, all the stuff she's trying to push into the shadows. And he says, go call your husband. And she says, I don't have a husband. What's she trying to do? She's trying to cover it up. She's trying to hide it in the shadows. I don't have a husband. Jesus says, no, you have 5 husbands. Now, how many of you guys know? How many of you guys have had a relationship, man, and you've been in love, and you have loved that guy or that girl, and you have been really in deep, and that person has broke your heart and left you. Anybody had that experience? Common experience, right? How many of you guys know it hurts? I mean, if you were honest, you go, it hurts. How many of you guys know, even the toughest one in the room knows, that when someone you love rejects you, it hurts deep, doesn't it? It don't act all tough and manly. And I know for a fact that when you are in a relationship, when you're in deep with somebody, and they leave you, they break it off, they say, I don't want to talk to you anymore. How many of you guys know that divorce is even worse than the breakup of your relationships? How many of you guys know that divorce doesn't feel good? Divorce hurts at the very core of who you are. When someone says, I want to be with you forever, let's get married, and then it breaks off, and the other person says, I'm done, I'm finished with you. How many of you know it hurts deep, deep down inside? How many of you guys know that when people get married, nobody who gets married goes, I want to get married, and maybe I'll get divorced. How many of you guys know nobody thinks that? People don't get married to get a divorce. They don't. Nobody does. Divorce isn't a fun thing. So how many of you can believe that this woman got married once and it failed? How many of you guys believe she was kind of embarrassed about that? How many believe that she got married a second time? Very hopeful. Man, maybe this is the guy. And when it broke off again, that hurt too. How many of you know she's probably embarrassed about that? How many of you know when she got married the 3rd time and she thought that was going to be the guy? And then that didn't work either. How many of you know after the 3rd marriage, she's probably really, really embarrassed? How many of you know when she met the 4th guy, she probably didn't say, hey, buddy, I want you to know I've been married 3 times. How many of you know she probably hid it in the dark, didn't tell anybody about it? Why? Because she probably feels like what? An idiot. She probably feels like an idiot. Why? Because nobody wants to get married 5 times. Nobody wants to get married and divorced, and married and divorced, and married and divorced. Nobody wants that lifestyle. And every time she gets married and divorced, it's a new scar, it's a new cut, it's a new wound, it's a new failure, it's a new embarrassment, it's a new man. I don't want anybody to know this about me. And Jesus says to her, I know it. All those wounds and all that buildup of wall after wall that you're building up over your heart, all that stuff you're trying to cover up, all those wounds and hurts and embarrassments, I see all of it, Jesus says. Go call your husband. Oh, wait, you don't have a husband. You have 5 husbands. And she broke down. She believed. She believed, and she began to go, wow, so tell me more. She began to ask him questions. She began to question about what's God like, and how do you worship God, how do you know God? And he begins to teach her about God. And she goes, sir, I perceive you're a prophet. Right? In verse 25, the woman said to him, I know the Messiah is coming, he who is called Christ. And when he comes, he will tell us all things. And Jesus said to her, I am he. I'm he. I'm the one who can heal your broken heart. I'm the one who can heal your wounds, all the deep hurt and embarrassment of your life. I am he, he says. Oh, that's awesome. See, there is nothing more awesome than when the God of the universe shows up in your life and says, here I am. Hey, I know everything that's going on. I'm here. See, when your eyes open up to that, when your heart opens up to that, there is not a more awesome feeling in the world than for God to step into your cave, into your life, and say, I see all the mess, and I'm here. And I love you. And I accept you. The Bible says she went into the village. Check out what she says. Check this out. Where is it at? Then the disciples came back and marveled, and he was talking with a woman. They're like, what are you doing talking to a woman? But no one said, what do you see? Or what are you talking with her? So the woman left her water jar and went away to the town and said to her people, check it out in verse 29. Come see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this be the Christ? Do you know what she's saying? She didn't walk back into the village and go to the neighbors and her friends and the town people, hide her stuff in the closet. She went to her friends and said, you won't believe it, but I just met a guy, and he just told me that I've been married 5 times. He just told me that I was hurt. He just told me that I was lost. And she went in there and she didn't hide her wounds. She didn't cover it in her closet. She bore them and she said, you know what? I just met a guy who saw all of this and he accepted me. I just met a guy who knew every failure of my life and he still loved me. Let me tell you, the dream God has for you is not that your wounds would be managed, not that your wounds would be covered up and ignored, not that your wounds would be hidden in a closet somewhere. God's big dream for you is that your wounds would be clear to the world. God's goal and dream for you is that you would go to your friends and your neighbors, your mom and your dad, and you would say, you know what? I've been hiding this stuff in the closet. Then I saw Jesus, and he told me everything about my life. He saw every wound of my life, and he has healed me. I've met a God who saw my life, and he's healed me. And your wounds are a witness to the power of God. Your wounds are a witness that there is a God in the universe, and he knows your name. Your wounds are a message that God can step into your dead heart and make you alive. God can do it. I don't know about you guys, but I think, hold up. I think there's a lot of guys in this room right now who don't believe it. I think there's a lot of guys in this room right now that would say the church stuff. If I talk to you, you would say all the church stuff. You nod your head. You go, oh, I got it. But I'm betting there's very few of you guys in this room that believe that God actually sees your wounds and that God can actually heal them. I bet there's very few of you in this room, and that makes me sad. But guys, tonight I want you to know that even if you don't believe it, it doesn't change